Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week, we have a look at the horror film The Undead. This is episode 437. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So, warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, publisher at Castle Bridge Media, home of the Castle of Horror anthology. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, which you can find at Global Comics. He is a Best Writer Ringo nominee, Austin Chronicle, Best of Austin Award winner, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Best of Austin Award winner and a member of the Pen America Fellowship. Say hello, Drew.
If you left out that I'm a shape-shifting imp.
Billy Barty.
How else can you become a Best of Austin Award winner?
32 years old, Billy Barty was here. And finally, also in Denver, color commentary from Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. And Julia, do you know this very special thing I was remembering about you today?
I can't wait.
Okay. Somebody posted on Facebook the heart-shaped and also the champagne glass hot tubs at the Pocono Palace, which was a Caesar's resort where people can't believe this place existed. But you and I actually had our honeymoon there, and we had an actual heart-shaped hot tub.
Not only do we have a honeymoon there, but we actually ran into some second cousins of yours or something.
That's right. That's right. In the Pocono Mountains, in these were the waning days of the great honeymoon resorts. And we got to experience that American culture, a culture now forgotten. That our future family members will look back on and go, that couldn't possibly have been real, but it was, and I was reminded of that today. So yes. All right. This film is The Undead. The Undead is a 1957 horror film directed by Roger Corman, just like the last one, because our friend Drew was the first person to suggest, let's do a series to commemorate the passing of the beloved director Roger Corman. This was directed by Roger Corman, starred Pamela Duncan, Allison Hayes, Richard Garland, and Val Dufour. It also features Corman regulars Dick Miller, Mel Wells, and Bruno Vasoda. The author's original working title was The Trance of Diana Love. It follows the story of a prostitute, a lady of the night, who is put into a hypnotic trance by the psychic Quintus, thus causing her to regress to a previous life and have an adventure. It's a very, very strange film. I mean, it's stranger than it needs to be. Hayes, by the way, who plays the evil witch, the beautiful evil witch, Livia, was also the star of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. So this movie came out in 1957 on a double feature with The Voodoo Woman. It would be really groovy if we got our opening thoughts, some quick opening thoughts. Let's go Drew, Tony, Julia, and then I'll get us right into the topics. Drew, The Undead. Tell us what you think.
First of all, there's no actual undead in this movie, so it's the trance of Diana Love, while probably not as alluring to horror movie fans, is probably a bit of a more honest title. I'm glad that we're covering this one. What a weird movie, though. Like, it's incredibly busy, and the script doesn't really follow it seems like it's sort of making up its own rules as it's going along. However, it sort of bypasses that for me anyway. I don't know about everybody else, because there is a collection of oddball characters in this that I really like. I love the sexy witch. I love the old benevolent witch that is not sexy. I love the Billy Barty as the imp. I love the rhyming gravedigger. You know, I love the hammy actor playing the devil. Like, I like almost everything about this. I even love the we'll just say it, gleefully synthetic, shout out to Mr. John Logan, gleefully synthetic look of the movie. and I can only say that I think it probably would work a lot better without the time travel stuff for me. I feel like I am largely disinterested in the reincarnation time travel aspects of it, but all of the like quasi medieval satanic panic witch stuff, I love the hell out of it. No pun intended.
Love it. Thank you very much. Julia, what are your
Well,
thoughts?
you had said Tony and then
Oh,
Julia.
did I say
Okay,
Tony?
but I'll
I'm
go.
sorry. How silly of me. Tony, yeah, you're right. We never do it that way. So that's a okay. Tony, what are your opening thoughts?
I like it. I like doing Corman retrospective. It's a fascinating like movie, and for all the reasons that Drew was saying, it's also we can talk about later. Got interpretive dance. Everybody in ye olden times, seems to speak in a weird pseudo Shakespeare.
Yeah,
kind of like all their dialogue seems to be run through like it's like, well, how would Shakespeare put this in a way? It's fascinating. All the choices are made. And it also reminded me of Santo and Dracula's Treasure, where Santo sends a woman back in time through previous life kind of thing.
I forgot all about that. Oh my gosh.
To meet Dracula and watch her. So I guess maybe they had seen this. I don't know. It reminded me. I guess because I watched it not too long ago and then watched it again. I think Riff Tracks has one as well. But that's a fascinating movie in itself. But it just reminded me of that because they're the whole. I mean, the time travel go back to the old thing kind of is similar in some ways. I think it's got a lot of interesting bits. And a couple of like some of the twists feel maybe not quite Twilight Zone, but perhaps some form like Night Gallery or something like that.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
But I think it's interesting. It's also of a time like everybody's once the aspersions they cast on the prostitute is definitely like everything of the era. Is interesting, but I liked it overall. I think it's a fascinating mixed bag.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Julia, what about you?
Yeah, mixed bag is a great way to put it. I mean, I feel like it's so many things. I was getting a lot of Snow White vibes, like, or as the young people say, it gives Snow White. I was getting a lot of the Robin Hood and Shakespeare as well. I liked the Smolkin coming up with all of his little songs and rhymes for everything. I actually kind of like regression stories. I didn't really love the fact that it was actual time travel. That it kind of lost me at that point, and we'll get more into that. But the regression part I actually liked. So there was a lot there that I thought was really interesting. I also want to say, because I don't know that there will be a more appropriate time to say it, I had made Jason watch the episode. Not I shouldn't say made him because he actually enjoys 90210, but I made Jason watch the 90210 episode that Roger Corman guested on because there was Steve, Ian Ziering's character, decides to do a film night, a movie night for Roger Corman, and Roger Corman comes in for it, and they learn that Nat, who runs the Peach Pit, was in a Roger Corman movie, and in fact, the actor who plays Nat was
Joey
in that
Tata
movie.
is his
Yeah,
name.
Joey Tata, and he's called. It was the Unholy Roller. So it was kind of a weird meta thing where it was like, he's pretending to be an actor that was in it, but he actually was. Anyway, so that was amusing. So if anybody ever wants to check that out, just Google Roger Corman 90210 episode.
It's really cool. And the funny thing is, I was so happy that you asked us to watch that because I remembered it the moment I was, I was just thinking about it that Roger Corman was on 90210 and you said the same thing, and I was like, well, this is wonderful, and we called it up. So yeah, we live a great life. This is first of all that you could think of that, and second that we live in a world where I could go
find it. Yeah,
show me that episode of 90210 where Roger Corman shows up, and Yeah.
Yep. I think with technology has advanced as much as I need it to, and now it needs to just stop.
I would like to
I always
stop
say
here.
that. I'm like, this is where it needs to stop, and that we don't need AI or anything else to go any further than it has.
So I want to start off just about basically take an opportunity to talk about the central conceit of this film, and it'll also get us into the plot, which is that an amoral researcher named Quintus, who has studied with the monks of Tibet. And who has looked into the darkest recesses of the human mind, has come up with some, like, this is straight out of Doctor Strange, basically. He has come up with a way that he can hypnotize somebody and cast them into past lives. And so the frame story of this, see, Drew, I actually really dig this. I think this is so nutty that I love it. The frame story is Dr. Quintus, or Quintus Ratcliffe, but Satan calls him Quintus because he knows him by name. Dr. Quintus grabs a sex worker and says, "Come with me. I'm buying your services for 2 days. And what I'm going to do is we're going to do some past life regression with you." And the conceit, the way past life regression works in this film, is it's like the frame story in the Titanic. They can, well, no, it's even better than that. They can sort of they're simultaneously, they can be aware of what's going on in the past. They can transport themselves through the person's hypnotic trance into the past. They can change the past. It's so, I mean, that is so brazenly bizarre and even daring and ambitious for a $70,000 movie, and I love it. I mean, I think that's just
Well,
so neat.
and the changing the past part is when it gets a little crazy, especially because he's just so nonchalant about it. Like he goes, Quintus goes, okay, she's there, she's in her past life. Well, that part is easy to buy because that happens now. People do past life regressions all the time. And whether you believe that they're actually regressing or not, the point is they experience something. But then he goes, she says, yeah, well, she speaks French, which was great. And again, that's something that happens in real life where people will be regressed and they'll suddenly be able to speak languages that they couldn't otherwise speak. So he did that. That's all good. And then she says, "I escaped from the prison that I was in because Diana, which is the present person, helped me." So now he's like, "Oh, damn it, we've changed the past." And I'm like, dude. Either this is all in her head or you legit think you changed the past, in which case you should be way more freaked out than you are right now.
Well, it's even weirder because Quintus later,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
uh,
That's the point at which it starts to go a little off
See,
kilter.
here's my thing
yeah,
about the Quintus. He's lame. He's neither Satan nor a hot witch. So he kind of comes
hey, speak for
in like the
yourself. I
last
mean, that he's got cheekbones out to here.
he's not an interesting villain when you already have a sexy witch and fucking Satan. Like
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
agreed.
but like dime store Hannibal Lecter just isn't doing it for me. Like if maybe if he had been more involved with the plot longer, but it just sort of feels like in the last minute, they're like he's sort of interjected back into the medieval plot, and that plot already had more interesting villains in it. Like,
Mm.
so to me, he's just taking away time from characters that I find more entertaining, like
Well,
the
we'll get back
Gravedigger and
to the time. So well said. And so let's explore the time travel plot a little bit more when we get back to it in a moment. But if you took it out, what you would have is something sort of like a Basil Rathbone fantasy movie, where because the stuff in the past, and I'm not knocking it, but it's also quite interesting because of all the things you said. It is the story of, in a land I can only call storybook. Basically, it's kind of medieval. It doesn't really matter. It's it's a storybook past kind of Prince Valiant sort of land with
it's the best Middle Ages that Roger Corman could afford.
I'm totally charmed by it. It totally
Yeah,
Really
I
good
like
character.
the artifice of it.
Yeah. There, by the way, what we're looking at is, so first of all, he's got an empty supermarket which he creates a soundstage on, and he's filled it with grass and trees and Spanish moss and fake fog. And then he's got some exteriors at a place in Beverly Hills that is often called the Witch's House, which is just a big house built.
It's so cute. I loved it.
Yeah,
It's a
it's built
gingerbread
in this
house.
style. So, you know, they use it as an exterior. That house actually looks like that. It's still standing. So, and so he chose this well, and it merges quite well, you
Well, and
know.
but that's what reminded me so much of Snow White. Like at that point, you got the old hag witch, with the fake nose and the fake chin, and you got the kind of the gingerbread house, and then you've got the very Snow White-esque girl, and right down to her telling her, like, don't let. Oh, and then you've got what did I say his name was Smolkin.
Yes.
Smolkin, who
Smolkin.
is very much like the huntsman, where he's supposed to be, doing something, and then he's like, "No, I'm not going to do it. You go to this house." So all the things that just reminded me so much of Snow White.
Oh, it's fairy tale, and it's totally charming. So in this story that our modern day characters have transported themselves back into, you have basically the good ingenue Helene, who has been accused of being an evil witch by an evil witch named Livia, and all the townsfolk believe her. And so Helene is condemned to die, and that is the beginning of the adventure of a hero named Pendragon, and who they, for some reason, continually call Pendragon. And
Right. I guess
you
it
know,
sounds
I
cooler
think it
to them.
because it sounds cool. So yeah, and they just pronounce things strangely in this, but everybody, at least consistently, everyone in this universe says Pendragon. And so anyway, Livia wants Helene condemned to die because she wants Pendragon for herself, and that's the plot. It's will the good guys, who are the gravedigger Smolkin and the good witch Megmod, will they manage to save Helene from certain doom? But we know, because of our time travelers, that Helene is destined to die. And so that's the conflict of it, is that she's supposed to die, and so our hero, such as he is, wants to stop that. And then our other anti-hero, I suppose, Quintus, is genuinely intrigued over what might happen if you save her life. Like, he's sort of like, huh, yeah, actually, I'm interested in seeing what happens if we just screw up um, uh, the future.
And also, there's the devil.
Right. And in amongst all this, Tony, would you like to describe the fabulous devil that is?
I mean, he looks like. I mean, he looks like the traditional bearded devil. I mean, if you've seen, in the vein of Underwood Deviled Ham, or the pitch
You're
from
right. You're so right. Oh my goodness.
from
He's the
Santa
coop,
Claus.
he's
Yeah.
the coop devil that
Yeah.
you see. He's got the bitchin' goatee, and
I mean, he does a
he's
great
pretty
job,
smooth.
but it's just like, the setting it on, this witch's Sabbath, and having him collect souls, and sign the book, like all that stuff is it's like, again, it's such a weird conglomeration of things.
Yeah.
And this is kind of, I mean, that's the charm of, like, yeah, okay, it didn't cost a lot, and when they shove people against the wall, it gives instead of acting like brick. But like, that's all of that is magic, as far as just show me interesting things
Yes.
is more important to
Wouldn't it be great
me.
if this were a video game? I mean, honestly, this feels like no. What was that game with it was a Laserdisc game that you would play, where
Oh, like
the
Dragon's Lair?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
this does. It looks like Dragon's Lair, especially the way the knights are dressed. Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm totally charmed by this world.
The
Yeah, it was cool.
the woman playing both Diana Love and Helena,
Hmm.
I don't think that, like, when I've read contemporary reviews of this film, I don't think she's given quite enough credit for playing two very different, because like when she's Diana the prostitute, like she's very, I mean you don't see a whole lot of her, but she establishes this very quickly, this like extremely cynical,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
Absolutely.
cold fish kind of character. And then, you know, Julia's absolutely right. Like when during all the Middle Ages stuff, she comes across like a Disney princess.
Yes.
And
Right.
that's you know, those are two very different
And she seems
moods.
to speak French. Maybe maybe she speaks bad French. I don't know. Julia, how did her French
No, it
sound?
was good French. Yeah, it was good French.
Yeah. So she's an interesting lady. Yeah. No,
It's all
she's
that kissing, French kissing as a
right.
Well, but that
I
wasn't the same person.
Nah,
The French speaker was a different past life of hers.
yeah.
right.
And then he
No,
goes.
I know.
Yeah.
There
Um,
the way that she appears, it's so funny how she has exactly the same mode of dressing to show that she's a woman who means trouble, as well as Ed Wood. Basically, whenever he shows like a cynical lady of the night, she's always wearing these like pencil skirts and I would say really rather conservative blouses. But you know, there's just a certain something about him that just
Hey
says,
man, pencil skirts are sexy. Don't let anybody tell
"Oh,
you otherwise.
don't get me wrong. I'm just saying you just have to know, you have to know sort of the visual vocabulary of the 50s to know that this woman is intended to look like somebody you don't bring home to mom, because of the skirt and
Her skirt's a little too
and her
tight.
big thick bracelet that she won't take off.
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
right.
I didn't even
What
know exactly what the hell that was supposed to be about. But go ahead,
It was just
Drew.
What
to
I-
make it more authentic when she had the shackles on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. What I find funny is that same thing is sort of carried over to the evil witch. Like she has tighter
yes.
clothing than, even though it's supposed to be the Middle Ages.
She looks like a femme fatale, and she has like a
Yeah.
Lois Lane haircut
Yeah.
and tight clothes. And yes, no,
Well,
she's
that first time she appears in front of the bar, they do like a panel up on her, and like she's got the Jessica Rabbit slit in her dress, and like one strap that's always falling down.
yes,
And I find that the whole like sort of contrived bad girl look to be so you know, it's effective, but it's also very charming in its 50s.
I agree. Oh my God, yeah, I could. Yeah, it's fantastic. I never get tired of this stuff. She played. Did she play the 50-foot woman? I'm
Yeah, she
trying
is the
to.
50-foot
Yeah, she's
woman.
the lead. You know, which is
I'm
which is
actually
such-
looking at a poster of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman right now, and there she is.
I mean, we actually published a book on called Attack of I mean, that features that poster. It's a famous poster. It's a beautiful yellow. I love it. Yes. So anyway, into this, we have these two stories, and it's almost like there are two movies in place, because there's the time travel movie. I'm going to go back to something and have this sort of time travel adventure and pluck myself out of it, except that I think in many ways the movie is more interested in just going along with this storybook adventure and less interested in the time travel plot. And
Like me.
yeah, like you. And and to Tony's point, it is weird that you've got classic, you know, classic Peter Pan style devil, like with his hat and a, you know, a big pitchfork and a little
Ears, I
goatee
mean,
and
pointed
everything.
ears, everything.
It's like the one in
Stupid laugh. His laugh was so dumb.
Oh yeah.
I really thought he was great. I mean, he's funny.
He's Camp Satan, and I love it.
He's super camp. So this is Richard Devon. So Richard Devon says, I don't know anything about Richard Devon personally, but I did read an interesting thing where he observed about Roger Corman. He said Roger Corman was the nicest guy in the studio, like in the studio offices and working things out and working on a deal. And he goes, but on the set, Richard Corman, he called him Attila the Hun because Richard Corman was doing nothing
Roger.
but watching his budget, and so he didn't want second takes. He didn't want you to whine at him about something that was going wrong. He wanted to solve problems and keep moving. And he's, so I just thought it was interesting that he called him Attila the Hun, and yet I think he worked with him several times. so he was down with the Attila the Hun-ness.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
you don't get a budget down that low
Yeah.
by having second takes of all things. Like, I mean, I get it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I wonder though, I find myself wondering, having done, last week we did The Haunted Palace, which had Vincent Price and Lon Chaney Jr., who are, real movie stars.
Yes.
I find myself wondering, he probably didn't take that same attitude with them. I wonder if there's any stories about him denying Vincent Price a second take.
It's a really solid.
I doubt you would get the performances that you have out of guys like, Price and Chaney and Karloff, who he also utilized. And I don't think you would be getting those kind of performances out of people if you weren't doing, second and third takes. And, it's a different, nothing against the people in this movie. I think, they create very, I especially like the woman playing Meg Mott. I think she's probably the best character in the whole movie. But
yes, she's wonderful.
But none of them are quite on the same level as Vincent Price. Like he's a different caliber of actor, I think.
It's up and down different. So yes, you're absolutely right about the caliber of Vincent Price, but also this is Bruce Wright does a whole section review of this film in Nightwalkers, and he is the first one I ever heard to mention the idea of the two Roger Cormans. The Roger Corman who's an auteur who did the Poe movies, and then the Roger Corman that was the rest of Roger Corman's movies. And it's really maybe it's because of the actors, maybe it's because he was possessed of a weird imp, who knows, but the Poe movies are their own thing, and everything else has this. Yeah, go ahead.
And yet, I do think you start to see some of the building blocks of the atmosphere in those movies in this one. Like, there are definitely shots in this movie, especially all the cemetery stuff, that are very atmospheric and very, very gothic. And
I love the dancers, by the way, where Satan goes, everybody's too blue for a Satan party, so let us be gay. And then these three ghostly dancers, there's your undead, these three undead dancers appear on the graves and slowly do kind of a ballet, and then they leave, and that's it.
Oh, yeah,
but it is
back out. Just again, like out of the blue, like, okay, well now here's the goth interpretive dance section. like that, but that's what makes it. That's what to me makes it fascinating. Is why so you have this budget. Why hire dancers and do that unless you have this vision for what a Sabbath Satan party with witches would be like, right?
Yes.
Like you don't have to hire all these people and do this sequence because that's going to take time, and yet it was important enough to add. And I think that's kind of what makes it fascinating, is all of these kind of strange disparate bits that make it what it is. And that,
well, you know what else is disparate, to your point? The iambic pentameter, like you mentioned that, right? That everybody, and apparently the original script was even more iambic pentameter than this, and Corman peeled it back a little bit. But how weird is that?
A strange choice. I mean, it makes it interesting because I mean,
yes,
who does that? But it especially when you jump back and forth, and maybe it was just to make it feel even more.
Absolutely.
To pull back the veil a bit. The contemporary stuff is so different from how people speak in the past.
It's Shakespearean for the same reason that Thor spoke in Shakespearean language. It was just to show that he was from a different time. And I mean,
but when you're writing, you have to come up with all of that, and you have to convey it to the actors. Like, it's important that you speak in this way. That, again, that can't help you have less takes, right? Yeah, and you have to really like hammer that in and work with people who are willing to to go along with you in that.
You know something?
Everybody, it's really consistent across all the actors, in my opinion, unless I'm remembering incorrectly. Like,
no, you're right. They all do it quite well. I mean, they're all down with the everyone from
Although
Helene.
almost nobody is trying to do a British accent. That is something I noticed.
Oh, that's good. Great? I mean, that I think that's fine.
That's also cool, the Americanness of this all. That this is just a storybook land, and that's really cool.
Well, I think in America, it's back in time, so it's not New England, right? We get
it's definitely something European, because you've got knights.
Knights and dungeons. So like, we're transported across the sea. Again, into storybook land. It's not even Arthurian in a way. It's something different, and
well, like I say, it's something out of a comic like Tales to Astonish or something, where you have something that just happens to involve jesters and knights, and or Poe for that matter.
The twist is at the end is very Tales from the Crypt.
So let's talk about that. Can we talk about the whole?
That's my least favorite part, I think.
Because let's jump to that. And Drew, I nominate thee to explain because it's a very interesting ethical question. We have to take it on faith that they're telling us the truth, because it has nothing to do with any theory of time travel. It's just so what's the deal? What is the big moral choice that they have to make?
So, according to Quintus, if Helena does not get her head chopped off, like that she is destined to do, it will disrupt the timeline, and all of her future reincarnations will not happen. And she is given a choice to go off with Pendragon. I refuse to say it the other way. And she does in fact end up chopping off, getting her, deciding to go through with it, and the executioner, letting the executioner kill her. What ends up happening is that because Quintus has used her as a conduit to travel back in time, he is now stuck in the Middle Ages, because he doesn't have a person to go back to. And Diana, in the then president of the 1950s, wakes up and is like, I am no longer going to squander my life, and whatever that means. Presumably, I guess she's not going to be a prostitute anymore, because it's 1950s and they're very judgmental of things like that. Right. And but what we have found is that now Quintus, in the present, has no head. His head is gone. So that's a lot.
His clothing was all it was kind of
his whole suit is empty. He's been just plucked out of existence.
Yeah,
leaving his suit
lot,
behind.
Though it's a lot.
But what the part that we have to take on faith, you said it probably really well, better than I could have, is Quintus lets us know, if she dies, then all of her descendants will live. If she lives, all of her descendants will never live. And
which that was what bugged me so much, was that he doesn't have the evidence of this.
Right, you have to take his word on that. It has nothing to do with.
Doesn't make sense.
Presumably, there's. Admittedly, he might be an unreliable narrator, but Satan's saying it's right. And I mean, I don't know who made Lucifer the time travel expert, but
Also, Lucifer knows Quintus in the same way that Satan, when he was running around Fantasy Island, knew Rourke like an old friend.
Look,
Lucifer knows Quintus, and that was really
he knows him. How else do you like? Hey, I just happened upon a prostitute.
Right.
I mean, I think
that was a weird thing coming from the candy and milk bar that I often go to as a completely moralistic man. Like, the devil's probably like, dude, come on. What I
Yes,
find
they do.
fascinating too is at the end, there's that moment also that feels very of a time where the devil's like, oh, didn't work out right, and all it's missing is the wah, 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 as they
I
flip the
think
camera.
the devil knows him because he knows people who have evil in their heart.
I have to say,
Right.
at the beginning, you just reminded me at the beginning when he goes, if only we need someone that's like something like, dim-witted or something that
Yeah,
we can
I have
use or
all
whatever.
that. It's like,
And
hey, look.
Jason and I both go, hello, like he was like with Lenny and Squiggy from
We we call that the
Yeah.
squiggy. When a
the
character
Squiggy,
says
yeah.
something like, "But for this plan to work, we're going to need somebody so dim, so loathsome
Yeah.
that they will
It's like,
not be able to see what we're asking them to do." And then Squiggy walks in and usually says hello, and it gets
Or Gilligan,
yes,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
which is why at the end it feels like a very almost like Gilligan's Island
Yeah.
kind of thing.
yes,
The dialogue is smarter at that point. It's not as played for laughs, but it's close.
yes. That's so
It's
right.
only it's like a hair's breadth away from the like, what you gonna do? In a lot of episodic comedy of the time.
Oh, absolutely. Gosh. Anyway, but I gotta say though, having really enjoyed extremely expensive time travel stuff like Endgame and things like that, I thought this was really interesting. I thought, you could somehow adapt something like this. Like, hey, Joya, I'm going to send you back into one of your ancestors, and I want you to take care of some sort of because instead of walking around in the past, you're going to go into the person of the past and walk
Right.
around and do your mission. That's pretty cool.
And
It's like
there have been stories, and I apologize that I'm forgetting which ones
well, Quantum
where
Leap, of course, does that.
yeah, Quantum Leap is one, but there's some where the person will go into the body of Quantum Leap's a great example. The body of someone in the past, and then it kind of messes like they're trying to go along as if they've always been there, but they don't know anything that the other person knows. So they're kind of messing up that person's life.
Yeah.
But this whole idea that it's gonna affect all the future lives, it totally disregards how souls are supposed to work. If you
Mm.
have a reincarnated soul, the soul is not dependent on any other life before or after it. It's just is, so I don't know. That just bugged me. As
Actually,
somebody
Well, like I
maybe
said, I feel like this movie just sort of I have the feeling, and I'm not saying that this is wrong per se, but because I actually write very much in the same way, but I think that this was written in a very stream of consciousness kind of way. Well, because the
no,
rules
I'm not
change from scene to
disagreeing.
scene.
Yeah.
Because like at first she can talk to her past life self, but then she can't, and
Right.
then he can travel back in time, but like
well,
it
like
seems to
as far as
change on
Diana
the.
goes, she gets stronger. That's why she can, because she's at first she's like I can't, but then the connection becomes stronger. I think.
Well, that's
But
the
then they
thing. The
lose
fact that you're even having to say "I think" means that these rules are not nailed down. And I'm not saying that they even have to be.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it does leave you with a very weird film going experience. And look, I mean, to a degree, I enjoy that. But I also what you have here is two different genres. You have the time travel genre, and then you have a witchcraft movie, and they're sort of like smacking up against each other. And in fact, I can't really, with the exception of maybe like something like Army of Darkness, which is very different from this movie, I can't really think of too many things else that have really attempted to blend these things like this.
You
No.
got to watch that Santo movie for sure.
Santo and the Treasure of Dracula, I haven't seen in like 25 years, and I want to see it again. I know I've got it around here on DVD somewhere. Is it streaming somewhere now?
Oh yeah, it's on, like, there's several versions on TV. There's the original and the Rift Tracks one.
There's a Rift. I feel so out of date. My goodness. Gosh. I do know that the guy who plays Dracula in that played Dracula in a couple of movies, because he also played Dracula in The Empire of Dracula. So he was
Or it
like,
might have been the latest MST3K series. I can't remember offhand. but I know it's all on TV.
Santo and the Treasure of Dracula. That guy was the go-to guy in Mexico to play Dracula in the 50s and 60s. Handsome dude in a turtleneck sweater, if I recall. All right, Aldo Monti was his name. So anyway, okay. Is there anything that we have failed to comment on that we should hit on?
I would like to give a little bit more discussion about Meg Maud before
Okay, please.
we are
Yes.
done, because I think she is the most interesting character in this movie to me. She is
I agree.
a benevolent witch.
Dorothy
that-
Newman is her name, by the way.
yeah,
Is the name of the actor.
somehow managed to trick Satan into giving her soul back.
Mhm.
And she is going about this movie like she's going up against. She has kind of a witch's duel with Livia, or am I saying that
Livia,
right?
that's right.
And I guess this is the reason why I wish that Quintus just wasn't in the rest of the movie, because I love their sort of hero villain dueling sorceresses square off here. Like she's sort of, everybody else in this movie is either kind of naive and being led around or actively evil, and she's on the side of the hero. She's the most competent character. Like, she's getting shit done. And I don't know, I would have watched a whole movie just about her. Like, she is really interesting to me.
Yeah, no, she is. And sometimes I take it as a deliberate choice, that sometimes when she's first appearing to be an evil witch, she kind of cackles more. And then when she's in among her allies who like know the score, she talks much more like just a regular woman, but she's cursed with this evil gnarled face. And that is also so interesting, that she's got the gnarled face and she's the good witch, and Livia is the super evil sexy bad witch. And the only
I think
other
that goes back to the idea that we see so often, especially a lot in Hammer movies, is that evil is kind of alluring.
Evil's alluring.
And,
yeah, very good.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I also really love the character of Smolkin, played by Mel Wild.
He's so great.
His crazy songs. I mean, his lunatic.
Yeah.
He just is always singing these nursery rhymes that he's made dark. They're always about graveyards.
Yeah, there was one where he's the Jack Sprat, and he says they lick the coffin clean.
Yeah, that was so funny.
It's like I really, yet at first you listen like, he's singing that as the song.
And it's a very clever
that was
character, because he makes this whole thing about how he's the fool, but everything he says is like just extremely intelligent and using this
Well, it's easy. It's how he navigates the world, because his whole thing is, I'm crazy. I wouldn't know that. I'm crazy. I'm insane. Like, you can't trust me. But it's so much easier for him to be, he gets left alone, which is what he seems, and also nobody's going to suspect he's kind of more competent and more of a mastermind if he continues to play that card. And he's great, like really good.
He played Mushnik on stage in Little Shop of Horrors in the musical version, and he also played Mushnik in the original 1950s Little Shop of Horrors, which I'm hoping that there's a video out there. But I think it was like Summer Stock Theater or something when he did the musical, so there might not be any video, but that sounds really great. He's neat. I also want to mention that the corpse in the coffin is Paul Blaisdell, and when we did the one about the hot rod, what was it, the Ghost of Dragstrip Hollow, Paul Blaisdell is the effects master who showed up at the end wearing the she creature costume. And here he plays the corpse in the coffin. I don't even think he does the effects for this movie. He's just around. Oh no. Let's see. I'm trying to find it. No, I'm pretty sure that he does not do the effects for this, but he is a member of Corman's troupe, and so there he is.
I like that they, Livia and her imp turn into bats periodically.
Oh yes.
and I guess a mouse. And I don't know, Billy Barty just like he's so gleefully the imp in this movie.
Yeah, we didn't mention Billy Barty. You're right. Billy Barty, 32 years old here, quite young. Drew said this, that I've never seen Billy Barty this young, and it's really neat. In the 1970s, Billy Barty owned a skating rink. I mean, how
Oh,
cool
wow.
would it be? There's this girl you've been waiting to ask out for weeks, and you finally get up the nerve and say, let's go skating on Friday night. Couple skate, and they're waving at you and wishing you well in his bell bottoms is Billy Barty. How cool would that be?
It sounds surreal. But he was so much of that time, like, I mean, as a presence across, so much of the stuff that I watched as a kid.
Oh yeah. Dr. Shrinker, right?
Yeah.
With Jay Robinson. Oh golly.
Yeah, all of that. But he just would appear, you'd be watching a show and, hey, look, it's Billy Barty, like playing this, a random character. Yeah, he's I just thought it was cool him showing up in this. Like I hadn't expected that. I hadn't, I hadn't looked at the credits or anything. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Okay. Let's get our final thoughts and then we'll go to our endorsements. But gosh, what a fun movie. All right. So we'll go Drew, Tony, Julia, and then we'll go to the endorsements. Drew, lay it on us, The Undead.
I like this movie a lot. I like that we're discussing Corman. I think that this is a interesting example of one of his B movies. It's got a very, very, very batshit crazy plot, so I also understand that it might not be for everybody, but I am glad that we slipped it into this discussion of the films of Roger Corman.
Cool. Thank you. Tony?
Yeah, I enjoyed just the bizarre nature of the movie as well. Also, stick around, as you're watching, stick around for the amazing scene where people are basically bartering their souls for various things, like the leper who wants to be cured of leprosy. So part of this whole Witches
Dick
Night
Miller.
Yeah, Dick Miller
extends to, hey everybody, it's Witches Night, but also if you want to get, if you need a favor from Satan, all you got to do is sign your soul away. That's a fascinating conceit. Also,
Satan is set up there like Lou Ferrigno at Comic-Con. He's like, okay, come on up,
sign the book.
Yeah.
There's also several beheadings, both at guillotines and with an axe, and there's great bits with all of that. Again, the great work with convincing with Smolkin going, oh no, my head, that's not
right.
I don't think that's going to be good enough. I'm crazy. I don't think the devil will. Like he's all those bits that he has, where he uses that to his advantage is great. But yeah, it's just a fascinating. I just give me a million kind of lower budget but interesting movies.
Absolutely.
Over an overblown budget that just you don't feel much. And again, I'm maybe I'm in the minority. I think anybody who listens to this, maybe not, right? But in general, that's not everybody's idea of cinema or cinematic enjoyment, but it is for me, definitely. So I'm really glad we're doing these movies.
Thank you very much. Julia, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different, like you guys were saying, from the one yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, last week. We did not do one yesterday. But I was entertained by it. I thought, like we've been talking about the storybook kind of quality of it and the fantasy quality and just the fact that it's several different things. I like the fact that it takes place in two different time periods, and it's so different. Each of the time periods is so different. Like the way they talk and all that it's just written. They're written differently. It's like they're two different writers. I didn't love that he, disappears out of his clothing, but I mean, good riddance. The guy's, not that great. But it was interesting that we're meant to understand that he had a deal with the devil from before, even though we didn't see him make it.
That is interesting. Yeah.
So, I think it's great cast. They very creative sets, given that it's with the inside of a grocery store. So yeah, I found it really, really entertaining.
Thank you very much. I would just say that I just very much enjoy this movie, and I want to see more of these ideas. I watched also this weekend, quite by coincidence, a movie called My Blood Runs Cold, which also had a very similar sort of aspect of like hearkening to the past and then affecting these people running around in the present. I think that was like 1966, that movie. But this is just a very interesting its own thing, so definitely check that out, and definitely check out the review of it in Nightwalkers, which is published by Castlebridge Media. So let's do endorsements. I will do no endorsement because that was an endorsement. So Drew, what do you have for us?
I don't know that it needs my endorsement, but I'm going to endorse it anyway. On the 4th of July this last week, Jamie and I went to see A Quiet Place Day One. And it wasn't a movie I was actually particularly excited to see, even though I liked the original movie a lot. I did not care that much for the second film. And of course, this is a movie where, it's the third movie in a series. It's a prequel. None of the original creatives are really involved with it in any major way. So I just wasn't, and I'd had a couple of people tell me that it wasn't very good. And I ended up loving it. Like the leads are terrific, giving very emotionally affecting performances. It also manages to be very suspenseful, and it ended up getting me both thrilled and choked up a few times. So especially again going in with pretty low expectations, I was completely wrong. I think it might be my favorite of the three movies, and
Wow.
I just thought it was terrific. And if you are a monster movie fan, I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it, particularly because, again, I think the acting is great. Like a lot of the times in sort of creature feature type movies, you don't necessarily see performances on the level that are in this movie, and these people really bring it like the way they did was just amazing. So yeah,
that's wonderful. Thank you very, very much. Tony, what about you?
I don't have a lot, but my friends in the band Duel have a new album coming out. They're about to hit Europe, and it's streaming. I'll post the link when we post this episode. But it's really good, and the guitarist, lead guitarist for Duel, is also. I mean, they're all good friends, but also he's our producer on the latest, on the last Desert to Mars album, on the Rise from Fire album, and the newest one that's coming out. So, he's good friend, really good producer. But their album is really good, and I'm also excited. I need to check it out. I just noticed there's a new Kinnikuman anime, which people, if you're of a certain age and have a certain amount of nostalgia, you may know as Muscle with dots. Many unusual creatures lurking everywhere. Muscle, but it was these little pink creature like wrestler that we didn't know there was even anything to do with anime when I was growing up. I didn't know. It was years later that I found out. And Kaneki Man means like muscle man or like meat man, but it's muscle man wrestlers. I was also called Ultimate Muscle. They did a series, but there's a new one that's on Netflix. So I don't know. I'm still stoked. Also, these little creatures were everywhere. They did lurk everywhere in our house. My mom finds them and sends them to me from time to time. Years later, she's like, I'm still finding these stupid things in my house. So that's pretty funny. But there are a lot of crazy characters. I'm kind of stoked. I haven't watched the first episode, but I think immediately after this, I'm going to go check it out because I'm curious. Yeah, but that's kind of my endorsement. I'm looking forward to more stuff, but that's what's out right now.
Wonderful. Julia, what about you?
I really enjoyed going to see Fly Me to the Moon, which is a new movie in the theaters with Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. And it's pretty charming. It's kind of a film that sort of seeks to explain how both the moon landing and the faked moon landing can both be true. Because the idea was that, that there was a fake moon landing filmed in case something went wrong with the real one or something to that effect. Anyway, it's pretty funny. But I thought it was really charming. It's kind of a love story between these characters. It's kind of a comedy. And I enjoyed it a lot because I grew up, like 10 minutes from the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And so NASA has been sort of my entire upbringing. It's been like central to my upbringing. And so this was a fun movie, just seeing, NASA. This was it takes place at Cape Canaveral, but still it was the whole thing.
We watched another kind of rom-com / empowerment film. I'm blanking on the name right now, that involved NASA. So I think Rain and I might have to dovetail into that. I want to. The movie sounds good, and I'm with you though. My grandparents lived in Houston, and so I wasn't always there, but tried to go every year, every summer to NASA, and watching it go from being out in the middle of a field, pretty much, to the rise and fall of it, strip malls all around it, and then decrepit strip malls. It was fascinating.
I do want to give a shout out to Houston because they're suffering a lot right now. There's like 2.6 million people were without power, including my parents and my sister-in-law, Jason's sister. And all kinds of damage from this mean Hurricane Beryl. So hopefully people are digging out okay and get power back soon.
Yeah, I definitely hope everybody's okay. I have lots of friends there as well, so I hope
everybody in our family has declared themselves safe, but it's definitely no fun.
Safe but powerless.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, this has been a discussion of the Undead, and this was such a blast. This was so fun to watch and so fun to discuss. I think we're having a great time with Roger Corman. So I don't know what's next. I have no idea. We have not decided yet, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about the Undead. And we promise to get involved on the Facebook page if you have comments or questions for us. We monitor it, and I'm just thankful for all the listeners. So, all right, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Be excellent to one another. Stay dry, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Night.
Good night.
Bye.